See, open source, now it has become a trend. 2 years, 3 years back, it was not a trend. Now it has become a trend. Everyone just wants to get into open source, just want to get into GSoC. 10% of the people are who contribute back to OSS. And if I start talking about what is the number of people who use OSS, it's pretty much everyone. You are this person. You, in college days, you do lead code, you do CP, you do AI, and you do system design. Your hope is to land a job in one of the top companies, tech companies, and banks, startups. What they do, they fund open source projects. They use open source projects in all of their repositories. So if this is the path where you are ending, why not just have a direct link to it? Then there is DNS, Linux Foundation, AWS Cloudflare. So you see this stack, right? Web development is here. Unpaid open source developers, it's here, just a small part. But you see how critical it is to support all of your infrastructure. 20 years back, it was web dev. 15 years back, it was system programming. 10 years back, it was app dev. Now it's AI. So this part of the infrastructure will always keep changing in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. But this core part, that is stable, that is always going to be remaining same. So the more you come down and the more you contribute to these repositories and invest your time there, you'll make sure that you are learning the best experience, your code is actually getting impact. The code that you write will drive the modern infrastructure. Whenever you're making a PR, just ask yourself, is this really going to help something? Is this really going to help the project in any way? If you're doing open source for money, just stop it.
If you treat GSoC like a transaction, you have already lost. These aren't my words. Those are the words of Beleshwar Prasad, a 2 times GSoC contributor and senior software engineer at Texas Instruments. Most people are watching roadmaps right now because GSoC 2026 organizations were just announced. They are looking for the fastest way to get a stipend. But after sitting in a deep session with Beleshwar, my entire perspective shifted. I am Ritesh, second year CS students, and I am diving into GSoC this year too. In this video, we are going to look at why open source actually matters and the logical path to getting started without falling into the trend trap. So let's start with a simple exercise. Which is more secure, Windows or Linux? Most assume that because the Linux codebase is visible to everyone, it's easier to exploit. The opposite is true. Because it's open source, millions of people are improving it 24/7. Think about the tools you use: Node, React, Django, Express. They are all open source. The OS you might be using like Ubuntu, Fedora, Kali, it's all open source. At the core of almost every application on your phone, there is an open source library. This is why companies like Google and Meta invest millions into these free projects. This isn't charity. It's because their own software runs on these foundations. If the foundations gets better, their software gets better. Open source gives you a power most developers never realize. If you write a patch or fix a feature, your name stays in the Git history forever. Someone on the other side of the world could be learning from the logic you wrote. But you don't have to be a coding genius to start. About 10% of people contribute to the open source and the rest use it. But only 1% actually write the core code. The rest is infrastructure, like writing tests or reporting a bug or improving documentations. So if you find a bug in a driver and report it with detailed logs, that's a contribution. If you improve documentation so the next contributor doesn't lose interest, that's a contribution. Google even has a dedicated summer of docs because they know that bad documentation kills even the best repositories. There is a myth that open source is too hard for beginners. Massive code bases are overwhelming. They feel mystical because you don't know them yet. But Beleshwar pointed out something crucial. An intern faces this and a senior engineer faces this. The difference is time and effort.
This phase is normal for everyone. It happens with everyone. So you can count that as an intern. An intern will also face this. SD2 will also face this. So will software architects. You can't expect someone who is 15 years, has 15 years of experience in software, and you give them a brand new repository or source code and you just expect them to know how it is working within like 2-3 days. It will obviously take them weeks.
Another myth is that progress is slow. In open source, small contributions compound. The goal isn't to do 20 PRs in 1 month and then disappear. It's about building trust. Maintainers remember the names they see consistently. The key is to be consistent with your logic, even if the work seems small. So Beleshwar shared his journey and it was very interesting.
This is my strategy, how I've contributed to. My favorite kernel is Linux. I've contributed code there. My favorite bootloader is U-Boot. I've contributed there. My favorite code editor is Vim. I've contributed there. My favorite RTOS is Zephyr. I've contributed there. So the things that I use and I see that they're bringing value to myself, I try to give back to them. So let's talk about my first contribution. My first bug fix in Metasploit, also my first ever open source contribution. It took me 20 plus days. Can you guess what was my first contribution? What would be my first contribution? Simple, one line change. There was a variable which was not assigned to a default value. It was always expected that you would have some value in the username. Just to find this, it took me 20 days. Can you imagine? The major part of my time spent was coming to here, like identifying the problem is in this file, and it is because that user does not have a default argument. In the next 20 days, I was able to fix 3 bugs. So you can see the resistance now. The first ever thing that you do, you'll face some resistance, but once you're past that tough phase, it is like easy. You know how it works. You know where to find bugs. You know how to fix them. You know the code base, and you get used to it.
So how do you actually start? Now that the organizations are announced, your first step is to pick one or two that you actually use or find interesting. Check their previous projects and see if they have ideas for 2026. Most of the repos have ideas for 2026 and you can find them on their GSoC page. So you can go to the GSoC official website on the 2026 page and find all the organizations that are participating in GSoC this year. Now after selecting one or two repos, join their Slacks or Discord channels or any other communication channel they are providing. But here is the most important rule. Never ask how do I start? It just shows that you haven't done the work. Instead say I have set up the repo locally and I have been working on this specific issue and I tried doing these things but it didn't work. Now how should I proceed? This shows that you are already in the logical path. After you have familiarized with the project, the proposals open on March 16. But here's an advice. Draft it early and discuss it with the mentors before you submit on the official GSoC page. The earlier you send it to the maintainers, the more feedback you can get to make it perfect. And on the GSoC page, you can find some email list or any communication channel for sending these proposals. And you should strictly follow those because maintainers don't like you spamming their emails and all. So you should follow those rules. I have linked some previous year accepted proposals and some resources for you to get started with GSoC in the description. But before we wrap up, listen to this final piece of advice from the session.
If you just want to contribute to OSS just because it is a trend or it will give you a job, you'll most likely drop. You will not be able to contribute. The first thing that should be clear is why. What are you doing? Then how will automatically be figured out? So is it something that you're using on your own every day? Is it something that you want to improve? Is it something that will help other people? If you see what project or what tech stack is that area and you identify the project, then you can start by the further steps. You can report bugs, you can fix documentations, you can test other people's pull requests, review code, and then finally write code. See, open source, now it has become a trend. 3 years back, it was not a trend. Now it has become a trend. Everyone just wants to get into open source, just want to get into GSoC. That's it. That's their goal. They want to earn money while they're in college, while doing GSoC. If that is your goal, what are you actually doing? Sure, you'll get some 2.5 lakhs, 3 lakhs of money, but what it is, it's just a one shot. When you work for a company, you'll definitely get more money. Do you really want to do open source because of money? Because there are various other ways to earn money. Open source should only be driven by your morals and your values to give back to the community. It should not be driven back because of money. Because Google is paying you money because they want more people to get into open source. But what happens in the reality is once they're done with GSoC, they will just ignore the org. If you're doing open source for money, just stop it. I mean, you can earn money in a lot of ways, but that should not be your primary goal to do open source. Open source should be just driven by values, your sense of giving back to the community, helping each other out, and creating the world a better place.
If you found this video helpful, like the video and subscribe to the channel and share it with a friend who is chasing GSoC just because it's a trend. Let's focus on the engineering here, not just the badge.